So I'm just going to go ahead and get started with a good morning to everyone.
Good
And
morning.
thank you once again for being here on part two and on the continuation of our series. So let me just go ahead and start right now. I'm going to share my screen with everyone simply because this is where we are in our journey of health and wellness at Turner. And again, we just want to say thank you so much, Dr. Rita Rogers Stanley, who's with us, and her sister, Roslyn Rogers Moore, is going to introduce her in just a second. But where we are in our journey here with our health and wellness, we have just been making sure that we're staying connected with everybody in this virtual space. It's been a year now. And I'm praying that everyone understands it probably will be another year. So we just want to check in with everybody. Is everybody okay? Are your friends okay? Is the team okay? And doing all the things that we need to do to keep connected with each other. And so as we started working on these workshops where we're expanding with Dr. Stanley coming to us from Kansas, Topeka, Kansas. It just took me to the prayer of Jabez. So let me just go into with a prayer. God, we thank you for allowing us to be here this morning. And we're so grateful for this assignment of health and wellness that we share with our community. And that whoever needs to hear this information is going to receive it and be blessed by it. And we just thank you for the leadership of our pastor, Reverend Dr. Daryl K. Kearney. We're just so grateful for the leadership that he provides and God for everything that you are giving us. So we thank you for allowing us to be here today. And so again, as we say welcome, let me just go into this scripture at First Chronicles chapter 4, verse 10. And it says, and Jabez called on the God of Israel, saying, oh, that you would bless me indeed and enlarge my territory, that your hand would be with me, and that you would keep me from evil, that I may not cause pain. So God granted him what he requested. And then our prayer of health and wellness has become sort of our theme prayer in the New Testament, 3rd John verses chapter 1, verse 2, where it says, dear friend, and I'm reading from the New International Version, dear friend, I pray that you may enjoy good health and that all may go well with you, even as your soul is getting along well. And so, Dr. Rita, as we turn this over to you, I just want to share with you all that we were excited when we began these nutritional workshops in the physical church, where Dr. Kearney would actually give us his first Sundays where we would have the combined Sunday school and everyone would come together as we were able to actually make these smoothies in the physical church and give samples to taste this a little bit before you went into worship and then have a little larger cup a little bit later on. And then we moved into our weekly wellness workshop. So we really want to encourage everyone. We're starting up again this Monday on the 15th with brother Joey Fulmore and his wife, Sister Sheena, are going to be doing the Zoom workout because I don't want to go back to the gym myself. And they have an awesome workout. We discovered that when we did a couple of our health fairs. So that's going to be 6 o'clock on this Zoom platform with Turner. Joey will give you the serious version of the workout, and then Sister Sheena will come back and give you that modified version that I can literally keep up with. And I will tell you, they want me to say that all you need is a towel or a yoga mat, and sometimes maybe a chair, but just the comfort of knowing you can turn your screen off or on, and they are recorded, so you can always go back to it. So it took us here to the workshops that we continued our series. We requested in the middle of a conference year to continue with our sessions of nutritional workshops, talking about the importance of what we need to do to keep ourselves healthy. And this was really before COVID hit, but now specifically since we are dealing with COVID. And so we also continued with having our Serenity Yoga, also moving physically from the church and going on Zoom. And I'm just so grateful for the conversation. And with Fern being in Atlanta, inviting her friend Roz, who invited her sister, Dr. Rita. This is the conversation after yoga brought us to where we are with this continuation of these workshops. So we just want to say that as we remain connected in a virtual space and we're doing everything mind, body, spirit, and just checking and making sure, we hope that everyone is doing well, following the teachings of God. And we just want to say, Dr. Rita, thank you so much. And so I'm going to stop my screen share here. And what I'm going to do, I'm clicking the stop share. So it's going to take a minute. And wow, we've got several other friends who have joined us. Thank you, Sister Vivian and Rona and Dr. Creighton. And oh goodness. Okay. Oh, hi, Internet, my daughter. So let me turn it over now to you, Roz. And you can go ahead and unmute yourself. And she's going to introduce us to our speaker for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Denise. Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to be here again. This is my third health and wellness workshop sponsored by Turner AME, and part 2 of Dr. Rita Rogers Stanley presentation on the COVID-19 protocol. Dr. Rita Rogers Stanley is, as I said earlier, my sister, my best friend, my 24/7 doctor. And this started as a conversation, as Reverend Denise said. We were all sitting in the floor one evening after our yoga class, and I don't know what led to this, but one thing led to another, and here we all are this morning. So let me tell you a few things about my sister. She is a board-certified internist. She was born and raised, we were both born and raised in Kansas City, Missouri. She went to medical school at St. Louis University, and she did a residency at the University of Texas Health Science Center in Houston. She's had a very diverse medical practice over 32 years now, so she's quite experienced in many ways. She's had experience at the community health center level. She's done correctional medicine. She's been in private practice also. She's held several positions at the Samuel U. Rogers Health Center in Kansas City, Missouri, where she was medical director for a number of years, as well as the CEO. And she now sits on the board at that health center, situated in the inner city in Kansas City, Missouri, to serve the indigent poor in that area. Although she was trained in traditional medicine, she transitioned to functional medicine. And I guess I should say she's bridging to functional medicine out of a true desire to really understand the core causes of her patients' discomfort. After years of feeling as if she couldn't really help them, she wanted to provide something more. She identifies clinical imbalances, which are the early signs of future disease, which allows all of us to make lifestyle changes and avoid serious diagnosis. She empowers people to live healthy lives by following a wellness strategy that includes live food nutrition, exercise, and bioidentical hormone balancing. She's the author, as I mentioned before, of a book entitled Health, Hormones, and Harmony, 7 Steps to Regain Your Health and Vitality. She comes from a medical family. Her father was an OBGYN in Kansas City, Missouri. Her father was an internist 2 generations ago. She's a member of Harvest Church in Kansas City, where her husband serves as the pastor there. So she's quite busy these days. She decided, although her focus is on bioidentical hormone replacement therapy in her private practice, with the advent of the pandemic, she got prepared and she is on a mission to educate us all. So without further ado, I introduce Dr. Rita Rogers Stanley.
Thank you so much. That's my sissy. Thanks, Roz. I'm so glad to be with you all again. And like Roz said, I am on a mission for the past year of this pandemic. And, you know, I really sense that it's not over. I'm gonna make that clear. We are not done with this pandemic, but we are moving in the right direction. So what I keep hearing in my spirit is recovery. And so there are some things that I'm really giving a lot of attention to now, because I recognize as a physician in the urban core for most of my career that we, as usual, have been disproportionately affected by this pandemic. So therefore, I have to do everything in my power to make sure that particularly my community understands the importance of the vaccine, the importance of doing some things naturally, because we're in our predicament now for many reasons, but one of which is that we don't tend to really do the things that put us at a good baseline. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But I wanted to spend a little time on the vaccine so that if you have any questions, and I really want, and Reverend Denise and I spoke about, get your questions in the chat, Sierra. I want people to ask questions. If you've got one now, put it in there, because while I'm going to go over some basics, I want to hit what is lingering, because I imagine there's some people on here who are this close to getting that vaccine, but there's something nagging, something, I don't know about that. So that's the kind of questions I want you to ask today. How many, if I could, by a show of hands, how many of you all have already received at least one dose of the vaccine? Okay, awesome. And I imagine some of you have gotten both of your doses. Okay, I just wanted to get an idea. So I'm going to go ahead and both doses, Dr. Fry says, all right. Because we are an example, Dr. Fry, right? We better be getting it and making it known. All right, let's see. Let's get going here.
And while you're doing that, Dr. Rita, may I just say to everyone, thank you, thank you, thank you all for being here. We'll come back and share that with you in a minute. Thank you, Dr. Rita.
Sure. So the last time I was here, I really focused, my whole focus this whole year, even though it looked like we were powerless, was to let people know, we still do have power. We still have some control. We can't control that virus. I mean, that thing's going to do what it wants to do, but we can control the things that affect our bodies. So last time we talked about vitamin D. And I'm going to mention that. I don't care what I'm talking to people about from here on for the rest of my life. I'll always mention the fact that you must know your vitamin D level. And as people of color, you simply must be on a supplement. I don't know any way around that. So we talked about vitamin D and the implications of low vitamin D on COVID. And now they're seeing that there's association with low vitamin D and severity of COVID, hospitalizations, and death. So very important. And I also talked about some the oxidative stress that comes along with COVID and how you can do some things to minimize that. So today I want to talk about, and I know it looks like a lot. Hope you all got your little breakfast or something, but we're gonna move through some things, and you've got the right to ask questions along the way. This is a quote from a very well-known person that I know very well, who happens to be my sister. She says, if COVID-19 finds you, let it find you well. And I totally agree with that. If we come into contact with it, let it find our immune systems ready to go, not ready to take care of it. But today I'm going to talk about the power of the vaccines. And that's a proactive sort of thing. I also want to mention briefly about the monoclonal antibody treatment, because listen, we're still in the pandemic. There are about 56,000 new cases every day still, you all. So you need to be aware of the treatment, outpatient treatment that is available. Okay, so I'll talk about that. That's more of a reactive measure. And then we're going to talk about the power of our microbiome, our gut, our own body, to bring health to our immune system. And that's more the protective piece of it. So you ready? So people say, why is this COVID-19 vaccine so important? Why can't I just, kind of go about my business, get infected, get my own immunity, and then I'll be good? And that would be one approach. That was an approach of a certain group of people in the last administration is, just get infected and your body will build immunity so you'll be protected. However, for us, people of color, that is a risky business. So the reason we get vaccinated is at some point back in November, December, we were all susceptible to the SARS-CoV-2 virus. We were naive. Our body didn't know that virus. It's a novel virus. So we were susceptible. And unfortunately, some people did get infected and build immunity. But the safest way to avoid death and hospitalization is to go ahead and get a vaccine, which will allow your body to build immunity in a more controlled fashion. So the word herd immunity is not a bad word. How many of you have heard that word, herd immunity? And we connect it with something bad, but herd immunity is an endpoint. The challenge is, how do we get to that endpoint? The safe way to get to herd immunity is through vaccination. And the reason we as individuals want to get vaccinated is to protect ourselves, right? But we also want to protect our families and our community. So the more people who are vaccinated, and in this graphic, the people that are blue are the people who are vaccinated. The people who are white are the people, some people can't get the vaccine. There will be people who won't get the vaccine. They will remain susceptible to this virus. So the more of us, and they're using the number 80% of us need to be vaccinated. And right now in this country, we're at like 9.9%, 10%. So we got a long way to go. But we will protect, by being vaccinated, we'll protect the people who can't get vaccinated, okay? So that when this red person shows up with the infection, that virus in that person's body won't be able to find people who are not immunized very easily. That virus is going to bump into a lot of people who are immunized. So I'm going to go into the vaccines, because I know that some people are kind of confused about the difference between the different vaccines. But the point I make with this slide is every vaccine that is either already approved or coming up the pipeline is looking at how do we get antibody, neutralizing antibody to the spike protein. Because that booger, that's what connects to our cells, gets in our airways, attaches to our ACE2 receptors and begins that process of replication. So all of these vaccines are to get our bodies to develop neutralizing antibodies to that spike protein. Real quick graphic, and I'll walk you through this. The vaccines, and there started out with maybe 20 something different vaccines that were, beginning to go through the process of production and not production, but just trials. So there are 3 different types of vaccines in development. Number 3, the mRNA, is the one most of us are familiar. That's Pfizer and Moderna. They are messenger RNA vaccines. The new Johnson & Johnson vaccine is number 2. It's a viral vector vaccine. The commonality of all 3 of these vaccines is that when they get into your body, they provoke your cells to produce spike protein so that your immune system says, what is that? That's not supposed to be here, and begins to produce antibodies. So that's the common thing. How we get to that point is what differentiates the different vaccines. So mRNA vaccine, a newer technology, the first 2 vaccines are mRNA. This third one, Johnson & Johnson, is called a viral vector, where they actually utilize a non-activated virus, adenovirus, cold virus. They use that to put the DNA, RNA in to put into your body. But your body ends up doing the same thing with it to produce the RNA, the mRNA of the spike protein. Real quick, and I'll talk through this. Understand that even though we talk about neutralizing antibodies as the goal for these vaccines, there are other cells that are part of building immunity. And I want you to just at least recognize the names of them. So the B cells that are in our part of our immune system, they are the ones that make these neutralizing antibodies, thank God. But then we have what are called T cells. And these are the cells that directly kill infected cells. And they also activate, and sometimes, if necessary, will dampen the immune response, because a lot of people die of COVID because they have this dysregulated immune system. But just know, T cells and B cells ultimately are what give us the immunity that we need to put the COVID virus at bay. Also, they have memory. So we want them to remember. Once they have seen the spike protein, we want our immune system to remember. So if that thing tries to come back around, and we don't believe we're going to ever get rid of SARS-CoV-2, we're never going to get rid of it. It's always going to be in the population. So we want our cells to have memory. We want them to remember, so that if it comes back around to you, your body can do what it's created to do. So this is pretty busy, but I want you to stay with the first three, because those are the vaccines that are currently available, right? They've got emergency use authorization. Moderna, Pfizer, those were the first two. They became available in December. They are the mRNA technology. Okay, those are the first two. They are 2 doses. We know that, any of us who've received them. And what they found during the phase and the trials is that when given this vaccine, Moderna, Pfizer, they could measure neutralizing antibodies. They also could measure, remember I talked about the T cells, CD4, CD8. They were also able to measure the effectiveness of the T cells. So they're not just measuring antibodies, they're looking at both arms of the immune system that I just showed you to see how our body's responding to this vaccine. And the endpoint, when we see these numbers, which can be confusing, the efficacy rate, and we know that Moderna and Pfizer have a pretty high efficacy rate. That what they're really saying specifically is that 94, 95 for Moderna and Pfizer, that's in terms of severe disease and death. That was their endpoint. They wanted to see if these vaccines were able to prevent hospitalizations as well, severe disease and death. So that's what you want to hone in on, because Johnson & Johnson's on the scene now, and we start seeing these 75, 66, people say, oh, that vaccine's not as good. Well, you really cannot, they're not apples to apples. You can't make that comparison between the Pfizer, Moderna, and the Johnson & Johnson. However, Johnson & Johnson is also highly effective, 100% effective against hospitalization, and 85 to 90% effective against severe disease. Okay, so it kind of bothers me when I say bothers, not the right word. I get concerned when I hear people say, I don't want that Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Because let me tell you about Johnson & Johnson vaccine. It's a different technology, okay? The viral vector type technology has been used in a lot of vaccines, you all. That's not new. It has been around for a long time. And it only requires 1 dose. You say, well, yeah, I can see that. 1 and done. We can get it finished. The other power of this 1 dose is the fact that there are people groups that I don't think we think about who find it difficult to impossible to access these vaccines. For instance, homeless people. How do homeless people get vaccinated? Well, it's going to be much easier for us to take the Johnson & Johnson to homeless people. It'll be easy because it's 1 dose. It doesn't have to be reconstituted. The other vaccines are powder vial and a bacteriostatic water vial. It has to be mixed. With Johnson & Johnson, it does not require reconstitution. It's one dose. It can be kept in a regular refrigerator. So getting it to certain people who just will have a tough time. And most of us can think about people who either homebound, they don't have any transportation, the homeless sector, and some of the very people that we really need to get vaccinated, which is our community, people of color. So I don't want people to get I don't want people to miss an opportunity. If Johnson & Johnson is the only vaccine, it is a good, effective vaccine. The other reason those numbers for effectiveness for Johnson & Johnson are a little bit lower is they had the benefit of being tested with some of these variants. Moderna and Pfizer, their trials were not with variants. So their trials were with the wild original virus. So yeah. And speaking of, because this comes up all the time now when I talk to people, what about these variants? What about these new, variants that are popping up? Are we gonna be sideswiped by those? But just know that, first of all, variants every virus is gonna have variants, not just SARS-CoV-2. That's just part of the virus's ability to survive. And so you can see that really with any virus, but B117 is what we're really watching now in this country. And you can believe that they're doing a lot more sequencing now when somebody is positive. And they're also backtracking, Pfizer and Moderna, to do some trials on these variants. If you don't follow this woman, Monica Gandhi, she's out of University of Southern California. She is a powerful, brilliant woman who her life career had been HIV. But a lot of these people who were doing viral sort of studies and work during this pandemic have become authorities on the SARS-CoV-2 virus. And so she watches kind of behind the scenes what's going on. So she knows and shares some things that won't become public for a while. So I just encourage you, and she's been encouraging to me around these variants, that our neutralizing antibodies and our T cells are really, even in the current vaccine, are really capable of putting these variants at bay in the sense of serious disease, death, and hospitalization. Just a reminder, since we are still getting COVID, people are still getting infected, this is the 4-day protocol that I talked about last time. There is an observational study associated with it. It's just 4 days of high dose vitamin D, C, A, and iodine. And if you're still wanting to have one on hand for yourself or family, I still have people who call and messenger. It is available at Etsy.com. So I just wanted to remind you all of that as well. All right. Sierra, do we have a lot of questions on the vaccine?
Some questions are coming up.
Okay.
Did you want me to share or hold off for a little bit?
Yeah, let me move on. I'm going to move through monoclonal antibody because you have to know about this. Okay, let me move forward. So you see, you can almost predict what this is going to be about. I love this graphic because you know what, SARS-CoV-2, you need to be knocked on out of here. Or if you come into our bodies, you're going to find us well, and we're going to have some treatment. So the monoclonal antibody therapies, you may have heard about it. Let me tell you where you probably heard about it but didn't realize it. Is with your previous president who was hospitalized with COVID and got out of the hospital and looks like he bounced back and didn't have nothing. So he received monoclonal antibody therapy among some other things. And we just thought it was out of reach. It's like, who can afford that but the president? But what we didn't realize is there were studies going on monoclonal antibody therapy. And so by November, there was emergency use authorization for these monoclonal antibody therapies, making them available to the common person like you and I. So what are these monoclonal antibodies? You remember the neutralizing antibody that we want our body to make when we get the vaccine? The monoclonal antibody therapy is giving you neutralizing monoclonal antibody. It's not yours, but it's giving it to you so it can work to neutralize the virus if you get infected, okay? So, and I'll show you a graphic in just a minute, a kind of a visual of how that works. It basically sticks to those spike proteins so that that virus can't stick to your cells. So it's authorized as an outpatient. This is key because if you notice, the treatments that you hear about are for seriously ill people who are in the hospital. Well, what about those of us who don't get seriously ill? We have the potential to get seriously ill. We go to the ER, they tell us, oh, I'm sorry, you need to go on home and take some Tylenol. That's the people, this is outpatient treatment for mild to moderate COVID-19. And I'll tell you who can get this. Because I mean, it's not just for everybody, but it's the people who deserve and can get this are the people who tend to have other underlying conditions, like many of us do. Okay, we're not sick, but we've got underlying conditions. And so there's two companies now that have these cocktails, we call them. So Eli Lilly has their version of it, which is and they started out just giving the bamlanivimab, but now the studies are showing that bamlanivimab with etesevimab together as a cocktail is a lot more effective. And then your previous president got Regeneron, which is a cocktail. So this is the visual. So when and if, and I'm not speaking anything over anybody, but if not you, someone in your family, somebody you know gets infected, what can I do? So here's what happens. If you fit the requirements, which I'll go over in just a minute, you literally can contact your primary care. And I'm also going to give you a link that you can go on. It's a locator. So you can go on this link and find the centers in your area, because this is all over the country. You just don't hear much about it. So if you needed and qualified for this, you would go to a center, an infusion center, an ER, where they would hook you up to an IV. They would infuse over about an hour the cocktail, the monoclonal antibody therapy. When those antibodies, these little green things, when those antibodies get into your body and they locate that SARS-CoV-2 virus, they are going to stick to those spike proteins. And you can see that in this picture. 3 just is a reflection of what it looks like when you don't have any antibodies and that virus gets in your body, it just sticks to your cells, your ACE2 receptors. But number 4 is what it looks like after you've been treated with these monoclonal antibodies. You can see the spike proteins are not available to stick to your cells. They're neutralized. And I can tell you that people turn around. It's just amazing. I've worked with probably about 3 people now who have ultimately gotten this. And it's like in 2 or 3 days, it's like nothing happened. So it's available, and the studies are solid. And this is just one of the studies. And what they're looking for is a reduction in your viral load pre-treatment and after treatment. So they'll measure your viral load and pre-treatment, in this study they did. And then post-treatment, they measured your viral load again. And there was a significant reduction in the amount of virus in your body. And these are the people who are considered at high risk and are eligible. And this is not, you don't have to have some rare disease to be eligible. This is unfortunately a lot of our community. So we're talking about, first of all, you can be just over 65 and be eligible, because we know that over 65, your risk of severe and deadly COVID is high, right? So you can be over 65, have a body mass index over 35, and that's not that big. Go on a BMI calculator, put your height and weight in there. You're going to be aghast at how high your BMI is. And you think you're looking good. Chronic kidney disease, diabetes, hello, immunosuppressive disease are currently on immunosuppressive treatment. So you could see how quickly somebody, yourself or somebody you know, would meet the requirements. And then even if you're younger, 55 or older, with cardiovascular disease, hypertension, COPD. Listen, y'all, unfortunately, that's our community. And my point is, if we don't know this is available, guess what? We won't get treated. We'll just stick it out at home. We'll tough it out and hopefully not get so sick that we have to go to the hospital. But now you know that. Now you know. When we know better, we do better. So the link, combatcovid.hhs.gov, is a locator. So I want everybody, when we get finished, to go on that website, find out which of the hospitals and centers in your area are providing this treatment. Some of you, I don't want to say this because, you know, doctors, I'm a doctor, we don't always like to be in the not knowing something, but some of you, if the need arises, may need to bring your own physician abreast. So, and it's not a bad thing because unfortunately we've not done a good job of making this widely known and available. Listen, once this monoclonal antibody treatment got emergency use authorization, the federal government sent out 660,000 doses of this across the country to hospitals, infusion centers, 660,000 doses. And many of them are still sitting on the shelf. Now you're beginning to hear a little bit more. I heard Rachel Maddow, she brought it up in the last couple of weeks. And you know, when Rachel starts talking about something, she's done her homework, talked to all the right people. And she's not a scientist, but you know, you trust certain people, you just trust. They're not going to say something until they know. And there's no cost to you for the monoclonal antibody. There's no cost. There is cost. I mean, the hospital has to charge you for the use of their staff, and so they have codes for it. But you're not having to sell your house to get this treatment. So I want you to just be aware of that. Okay. So that's monoclonal antibody. Again, this is for outpatient treatment, not hospitalization. And it's the only outpatient treatment that's really available. Amen. All right. So do you want me to press on forward, or you all tell me?
Well, excuse me, let's ask the question. I think we can press forward because you're just so awesome and we're so intrigued with what you're sharing with us. And so I'm going to just take that leap and just say, let's press forward, and then we'll go into the questions.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, you know, I said earlier that I just really just know that we're in a recovery phase now. We still have to be careful. We still have to wear our mask. We still have to social distance under certain circumstances. We need to get our vaccine, because when you first get the vaccine, you're not ready. You're not like, wow, I'm done. So generally we'll say 2 weeks after the second dose, you have gotten probably to that point of the most optimal immune system response. So when I say recovery, what I'm saying is now we really need to refocus our efforts, because our body in the last year, this is, you know, like Roz said, most of my work really before the pandemic was around the hormone imbalances that we measure in functional medicine, because we know that that hormone system is so vital. It's not just feel good stuff, y'all. We want our libido, we want all that, but we also have the adrenal glands, which are meeting the demands of stress every second of every day. So we've got a lot of recovery to do. And I'm already beginning to get phone calls from new clients who said, I just don't feel, you know, they just know that something went south during this pandemic. So we've got to begin to do some things to recover. So, and we know that when I say recover, I don't mean another vitamin necessarily. I'm talking about the basics, because food, we always talk about Hippocrates' quote, let food be thy medicine, medicine be thy food. Basically, what he knew hundreds of years ago was that food is information. So I want to say that as we move forward and recover from this pandemic and all the havoc it's wreaked on our body, we have to look at food in a whole different way. Not just, and yes, you want it to taste good, but you need to understand that every time you eat something, you make a choice. And if the choice is a good choice, you're getting something that tastes good, but you're also getting things that at a cellular level, your cells are like, I needed that, so they are going to process it that way. I'm going to hone in on the part of your body that really, really needs to be fed well. And that's your gut bacteria, which is 65 to 70% of your immune system, since we're in that vein, okay? So you all have heard this term microbiome, and that basically is the entirety of those microorganisms, just billions of them, you all. God is, I just have so many questions for him. So I hope I can just take him over in the corner when I get there. Well, I can talk to him now. But, I'm like, why did you put all these billions of bacteria in my body? But, one time he gave me a little hint. He said, well, I created y'all from, man from dust, right? From earth. And that's where even now, a lot of the good bacteria is in the earth. It's in the shell. It's in the core of the earth. And he created us from that. So he had a strategy, wouldn't you say? So he intended that these microorganisms work in synergy with our body. Actually, they outnumber us 10 to 1. Hello. 10 to 1, they outnumber us. So we know when we see that, we know that God has a plan, okay? And this is just a little trivia slide, just talks about how small they are compared to human cells and how they outnumber us 10 to 1. And I thought this was funny. If you laid end to end our body's bacteria, they would circle the earth 2.5 times. Isn't that weird? Kind of weird trivia. And then it also talks about your GI tract. And when I'm talking about the microbiome, I'm really focused on the ones that are in your large intestine. But if you laid out, or if you measured the surface area of your GI tract that's doing all this work on our behalf, the surface is as big as 2 tennis courts. That was interesting, I thought, as well. So just some trivia. But to get to the point, we have these millions and billions of microbiome, and they're intended to work on our behalf, okay? Now, the good ones work at the level of production of vitamins. Our microbiome produces vitamins. They also work in a preventive fashion to prevent cancer and tumors. They modulate our immune response. So the good bacteria that you see on the left side, those are families. Those are bifidobacteria, lactobacilli, and even E. coli that we pretty much have demonized. But E. coli actually helps produce vitamin K2, which is essential for, clotting. So they are meant to be in balance. And we do have so-called bad bacteria, but they coexist. If our good bacteria are optimized, then they coexist with some of these other organisms that will turn on us if we don't eat the right food. And that's the Campylobacter, the Enterococcus that we see commonly post-surgically in post-surgical infections. And then the C. difficile, which wreaks havoc. If you've been on long-term antibiotics, that C. difficile will take charge in your gut, and it can be deadly. So we like to see a balance, okay? And the reason, we know by now that the impact of a normal, healthy, balanced microbiome is just this graphic pretty much shows that there are certain conditions we now recognize, like obesity, related to imbalanced microbiome. Inflammation for sure. And inflammation is another one of those core imbalances that we go after in functional medicine, because we know ultimately that will turn your life's course, open you up to all manner of chronic disease. Autism, which I think is so fascinating, they think that there is an association between microbiome, dysbiosis, and autism. Certainly on the left side, sort of the positive things, we know that the balanced microbiome is going to give you a more effective and efficient immune system. It's going to help produce some really important vitamins. And it does have an effect on your metabolism, how your body burns food as energy, okay? And just real quickly, just to show you, I tell you, the pandemic we think of it negatively, but I can see where it has really opened the door for even the traditional medical establishment to have to look at some different things. Because I'm kind of a, what did you say, Ross? Bridge. So, I mean, I come from traditional training. I thank God for it. I used to just fuss at that. I wasted all those years. But I now know that where I am now, absolutely, I needed to go through that process of training and experience to get where I am now. So just real quickly to show you that in the course of this pandemic, there has been clear association. So let's look at this slide. So healthy, they call it eubiosis. So meaning somebody who's got a really healthy microbiome in their gut, no other comorbidities or pre-existing conditions. They're living rather healthy. They're eating fruits and vegetables. They're taking a pre and probiotic. Those people when they got infected, tend to have asymptomatic, no symptoms, to just moderate COVID. But then on the other side, and this is, I'm sure, retrospective, and just this was not a double blind, all that sort of study. But what they saw was that people who had dysbiosis, they came to the COVID infection picture with inflammation, lots of other diseases, high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, lots of oxidative stress, had been taking antibiotics way too much. They are the people that tended to have the severe and fatal COVID. So, this kind of information, when this starts coming forward, it can't be ignored. It won't be fully accepted until there are some randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled studies. But at least it makes you, it's almost, I'd say no-brainer. You would expect that if you really understand the microbiome. And there are a lot of things in our control. So I never want people to feel like, oh God, what am I going to do? I can't do anything about my microbiome. We do have control of a lot of things. And that's around just our general lifestyle and smoking and drugs. And so there are some things in our control that will affect our microbiome. There are some things we can't control. I mean, as we age, our microbiome can get out of balance as we go through shifts in our hormones. So I see lots of menopausal women, lots of andropausal men. And so not only do I support their hormones, but I look at their gut, because I know that there is an association. It won't do me any good just to look at one piece of it. And most of you all know that, it's real easy to buy a probiotic. That's kind of your knee jerk. It's like, if I need to have healthy bacteria, I just need to get a good probiotic. That's part of it. But understand that those good bacteria, they really want some good nutrition. And you can do that. When you hear the term prebiotics, very important, basically food for the bacteria. And that doesn't have to be a supplement, but you can get a prebiotic and a probiotic together, and then you have that right combination to have a healthy, balanced microbiome. And I just want to show you this because, I encourage people. Supplements here's what I tell my patients. These are the things that you need based on your history and on your lab. These are the things that you need. Your body is saying that it needs. Here's how you can get it. So my first approach is always, get it from food, because when you are imbalanced, your B12 level is low, whatever the case may be, the best source of any food substance or vitamin or nutrient is the food itself. That's how God did it. So because he knows what he put in that apple. So if you start pulling out the vitamin C from the apple and putting it in a capsule, you're missing out on what God intended as the whole, okay? So look at this slide. On the right is plant-based prebiotics. Now this isn't difficult, especially for Black people, because we do garlic, listen, garlic, onions, leafy greens. It's just knowing that, yeah, we like those foods and we've been eating those foods, but those foods are really doing something. We do need to learn how to not cook our leafy greens so long and hard, but so my point is, don't look for the unusual, like jicama. I don't even know what that is. So I'm not gonna let that, stress me out. Oh, I don't know. No, I'm gonna say, oh, okay, I'm gonna up my garlic. Love asparagus. My husband loves it. That's an easy. Bananas in moderation. Onions, leeks, leafy greens. That's all I need to know. And then if you look at the foods that come with the probiotic, then you see things like, and some of these may be a little more odd to you, but really readily available. So we're talking about kefir, which really tastes good. I call it the liquid yogurt. And as you go shopping now, look over in that yogurt section and you'll see that kefir, full, just loaded with good bacteria. I love sauerkraut. So sauerkraut, fermented, not the stuff that's on the shelf in a can, but fermented sauerkraut, a little bit in your salad, a little bit on, I just like sauerkraut. Tempeh, I've never had tempeh. It's like fermented soy, but it's very high in probiotics. Kimchi, heard a lot about it, heard it was stinky, but some people love kimchi and they put it in things. Pickled vegetables have gotten really, really popular, non-pasteurized. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the non-dairy yogurts. Okay. Two of my favorite, these are the two that I eat the most. And then I'm going to have Roz talk about, because your yogurt isn't easy. It can be a good snack. It can be a good meal sometime first thing in the morning, but you should really know how to choose the yogurt that's not going to add a lot of sugar, and that has not been pasteurized. Oh my goodness. So if it's a yogurt where they've had to heat it, then they've negated the benefit because the heat has killed off these good bacteria. So you're going to want to look for non-pasteurized yogurt. Roz, you want to go ahead? Unmute your, yeah.
Yes. I have, over a lifetime, seems like now, 40 plus years, I have had food allergies for my entire lifetime. So I have been on, and I don't want to use the word diet. I just had to develop a special way of eating throughout my entire life. Since dairy is one of my most prominent allergies, I love yogurt, and I started eating soy yogurt. I then realized that I was getting some odd lab test numbers on my thyroid. It was off the chart, and I couldn't understand what was going on. So I started doing my own research, only to find out that soy is one of the worst foods you can eat. It impacts your thyroid function. Your thyroid is located at the base of your neck, and it secretes hormones that serve so many functions throughout your body. And there is a substance in soy that mimics this hormone in your thyroid. And no one had ever explained that to me. So I simply stopped eating soy products, and my thyroid values returned to normal. So I say all that to say, be open to different alternatives. These in this picture are two that I just discovered actually a couple of weeks ago. They are yogurt alternatives. They're dairy-free. One is made by So Delicious. The other is made by Yoplait. And you can get strawberry, vanilla, different flavors. But they use, instead of milk, they use a coconut dairy alternative. And so that's the basis of this yogurt. And I just recently tried it, as I said, and it's pretty good. Not only that, this one comes in this cute little jar that I don't know what you do with these after you collect so many, but they're very good. They're very creamy, no sugar added. I think there's a little stevia in it. The bottle in the middle is kombucha. Many of you probably already are aware of kombucha, but if you're not, kombucha is a ancient fermented tea beverage that dates back to the Qin dynasty from 220 BC. So it's nothing new. And it's a combination of tea, water, sugar, and the substance they call SCOBY. And SCOBY is it's an acronym for symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. And it's a fermenting culture that's made from previous batches that stands for symbiotic colony of bacteria and yeast. And so that's the basis of this drink. So they add the tea, a little bit of sugar, put it in a sterile jar, add the SCOBY, and let it sit for 10 days. And then you have kombucha. Now that's if you want to make it yourself. I've never tried to make it myself. You can buy it. There's so many different brands. I'm not necessarily promoting any brand, but GT was one of the first I had ever tried, and I really enjoy it. Kombucha is known, some people say it's a great source of probiotics. That's a healthy bacteria that Dr. Rita just spoke with us about. For the intestines, it's got a lot of vitamins in it, and it's got detoxification properties that really help to cleanse the body and support a healthy immune system. So there's so many different companies that make it now. Here's another one that's not in the picture. This is a Dr. Brew, and that's pretty good too. I like this one in the picture. It's called Gingerade. I love ginger, and we all know ginger has so many healing medicinal properties. I recently discovered another one. If you all are Costco fans, they have their own brand now. It's an organic kombucha. It's a ginger lemonade. I just tried this last night. It really tastes like lemonade, very good. But for those of you who have never tried kombucha, it's been a great alternative beverage for me with all of my allergies. I'm pretty much down to water, tea, kombucha, maybe some flavored waters. I don't buy fruit juices because of the concentration of sugar. So this is a great discovery. Thanks to Dr. Rita. She turned me on to this. So I will tell you that you can see in the picture, maybe in this picture, you see some sediment. If you buy kombucha, you see some sediment in the bottom, and that's the remnants of what really makes this kombucha. What really helps to ferment this is the SCOBY that they put in there to actually start this. So this is organic. This particular brand is organic, unpasteurized. It's a raw kombucha, which means these are really, live cultures in here. But it's a very refreshing drink. It's effervescent. It's got a full body to it, especially if you buy ginger. And when I say these cultures are live, they are. If I were to turn this bottle upside down and then right side up again, I'd have to clean up the table, because it will really fizz and come through this cap, literally. So I won't shake it here, but I just want you to see what it looks like. It's just, you know, and you can see it coming out. And sometimes you can see the particles in the bottom kind of settling.
Yeah.
And sometimes it will thicken, and you might take a sip and it's like, ooh, what's that? That I think was some of the SCOBY that they made it with. So it's very soothing. It's fizzy. It's delicious. It's a great alternative.
And I always tell people, if you're new to kombucha, just do shots of it. So don't try, because it really is, it's almost one, I love that little sting
Yes.
of the ginger. You'll just end up trying to drink that whole thing, but you don't want to do that, particularly if you don't have a routine of probiotics, because your GI tract has to adjust to it, and it may make you gassy, it may give you some loose stools, but slowly work yourself up and enjoy it. Enjoy it.
Yes. This particular one has a base of, it says black and green tea in it, and fresh ginger and the SCOBY and all the other things they use to make it. So I highly recommend it. It's delicious and it's good for you.
And then my final slide, I believe, is if you say, oh, I just can't manage all that, then there are good probiotics. I don't recommend any one. I tell people any one brand, but look at the back, look at what's in it. And the more diverse your lactobacillus and bifidobacterium is, the better. Garden of Life is a good kind, you know, I've certainly recommended their supplements over the years. And this particular one has prebiotic fiber and probiotics. So, you know, if you want something that's, you know, you're going to be getting both of the important ingredients, this is a good one. 50 billion is a lot. So again, you'll find these different numbers. I recommend people who are sort of virgins to probiotics to start at the 10 to 15 billion unit CFUs, just to allow your GI tract, because I've had people who started too high and they just said, oh God, no, I felt like my stomach was gonna blow up. So start at more of a 10 to 15 and then work your way up. 50 billion I consider for people who just, you know, completed antibiotics, who really just need a, you know, a reseeding, so to speak, of their GI tract, okay? So thank you all so much. Here's all my contact information. So feel free to reach out to me. Feel free if you know, sometimes people are like, you know, I just need some answers to some things. You know, feel free to email me. We'll figure out how to connect so that I can at least direct you. And I do virtual consultations, especially since the pandemic. So I can still see people across the country. We can get a lot done. You can still have lab work done, so that you have a real directed clinical functional medicine assessment with recommendations. Otherwise, you're going to guess. It's what I've seen people do for years. They're guessing what's wrong. They're trying all that. They spend a lot of money not really knowing the root cause. So I can help you with that. So feel free to reach out to me.
Well, Dr. Stanley, now I need to find the best way for us to go back to where we can come back to this full screen to see everyone and the gallery view. And I'm going to click there's so many people. I want to unmute everyone. So I would like for everyone to unmute yourselves so that we can give Dr. Stanley a real round of applause. And there are so many people who have come on today that I didn't see at the beginning. Hey, everybody, thank you all for being here. And I really want to just say thank you, if you don't mind, to Reverend Dr. Marion Creighton. She's on our staff here at Turner, and I'm looking at all these different names. Dr. Stanley, this has been so amazing and so informative. We're just so grateful. So if everyone has unmuted themselves, do I have to ask you to unmute, or are you able to just unmute yourself?
Oh, they're unmuted.
There you go. So let's really just give Dr. Stanley a rousing, a shout out and a standing ovation. This has been incredible. And the one thing that I've been enjoying are the chats that you've been putting in. You know, we try to keep ourselves very informed about what we need to do. But I don't know about you all. Do you all feel like you just had a nice, productive session in medical school?
Yes.
And so, Dr. Stanley, I really want to just say thank you again. If Dr. Creighton can stay a few more minutes, I know we're all multitasking. I do want her to help us close out with prayer. But now, should we do this? And I'm going to ask Sierra. There have been quite a few questions in the chats, and some of you have even said that your questions were being answered in the presentation. So that's awesome. So there are two things I want us to do right now, and I would just ask everyone, if you don't mind, can everyone just please stand up? We're going to take a look at the chats and the questions, and Sierra is going to go and address those questions. But I just want, and hey, I'm seeing all these wonderful, I just want everyone to just stand up, hold on to your chair, raise up the knee, and just hold on to the chair to do this. And just lean forward and take that leg out and open up. Just kind of whatever you need to do just to rock and roll. We're always, and then do the other knee the same way. Just bring it up for just a second and take yourself, stretch it out, and then take a seat. You know, we're always sitting in front of our computers for hours on end. And I hope that little stretch right there. And I also want to say, out of all of my wonderful friends, Kim and Vivian, Wild, my friend from high school, and Dr. Stanley, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine, Dr. Patricia Fry. And if you can unmute yourself, take your picture off. Dr. Fry, everyone, is here in this area. And she has
Oh, there she is.
There she goes.
We lost the volume, Denise.
Hi, Dr. Fry.
Hi, great talk. Thank you so much. It was a perfect presentation. Loved it.
I went away from my camera because we're gonna talk about this in April, everyone. And if you go to, I really do not sell anything on the Turner platform as being a minister. I want to be respectful, but I am going to be, excuse me, conducting my wellness. I need a drink, sorry. The Serenity Yoga Wellness Retreat in April. So you can go to my website to get that information. And Dr. Patricia Fry is going to be one of our speakers there. So I'm inviting everyone who's here to come back April 24th, but we'll do that in a minute. So Sierra, but thank you, Dr. Pat. She's a pediatrician, Dr. Rita. And so she's been treating patients, children who have been dealing with cancer, and the natural ways to combat the pain. Am I correct, Dr. Fry? Would that be a good way of describing that?
Yeah, I treat, actually I'm anesthesia and pediatrics, but I treat adults and children, mostly circumventing some of the adverse effects from chemotherapy, chronic pain conditions, autism, seizure disorders, serious and chronic conditions. And it's not, it's more of an integrative practice. I don't treat cancer with herbs, but I can help with side effects.
That is awesome. So I always like to connect the different people who are in those same businesses or different same areas of interest. And I'm looking at Kim. Kim Alfonso and I, and some of you probably also, our fathers were also doctors. And they knew each other, as a matter of fact, over at Howard University. So there's all this wonderful information that you're sharing with us. And so, Kim, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself for just a second, because one of the other things that we're going to start talking about are the essential oils. And, you know, there's just a natural way, Dr. Rita and Dr. Pat, that, and I'm just so grateful for all of this information, you know, in addition to the way we're eating with Artie, bringing the Ezekiel bread to us through our yoga classes, and then the smoothies, and even with Sister Upshur, who is our culinary chef at Turner. You know, there's just all these different ways that we know we're supposed to take care of ourselves. So, so Kim, if you can, we're getting beyond our hour, and I want to be respectful of that. But Kim, if you want to just speak a little bit about the doTERRA oils, the ways that we can just really bring about a natural way. I'm always having my lemongrass zen throughout the house.
Yeah, so thank you. Yeah, so I started probably about 4 or 5 years ago, recognizing as a Black woman that I relied on traditional medicine exclusively. That is what I relied on, and the antibiotics I was given, and the steroids I was given, and all this other stuff. And I soon realized there's other things out there, right? And I think we've learned today, and we learned the last time I was at the session around supplements, you know, NAC, you're taking your vitamin Ds, your Cs, your CoQ10, et cetera. And so I'm just going to give you a story of what happened to me and why I'm there, and then I'll shut up. But I have asthma, and I've got pretty bad asthma depending on the season. And I happened to be getting a pedicure, and my asthma was really flaring up. And I said, oh, I'm just going to go to the urgent care, which is what I did. It would flare up. I'd go to urgent care. They would do a nebulizing treatment. And then I would come home and stock up on all the meds. And as a woman was there, she could hear me sharing. And she said, can I try something? She had some oil she put in her hand, and she said, just breathe it in. And what blew me away was within seconds, my airways opened. And I started realizing that there were other treatments. Now, it does not negate when I need to have medication. But what I learned is the power of pure essential oils, not the stuff you go into the store and you buy on the shelf that may have 10% or 6% of the pure oil. And so it just so happened that I embarked on the line of doTERRA, which is 100% pure oil, safe, effective, et cetera. But I'm very clear on how I integrate that with supplements and with traditional medicine. And so, so I do training and lessons on, we just did one on women in menopause and et cetera. So thank you.
I will continue to share the different sessions that Kim provides, because they really have been really very, very helpful, Kim. Thank you. So, and I wanted to just, I know that I was asking Dr. Pat to say something, but I'm learning how to work this. So there's Dr. Pat. She's going to be with us in April. I just pinned you so they can see you. And so let me just ask this question to Sierra, as I'm literally thanking everyone. I know, Kim, you've invited a lot of your friends from our friends from the Butterflies. And so let me just ask, Sierra, were there any specific questions? Because quite a few of you were commenting, and then some of you actually said that your questions were being answered, which is awesome. So again, we just want to say thank you and be respectful of our time. Were there any questions, Sierra, that before we go into prayer? And Dr. Creighton, thank you so much for being here to close us out in prayer. Were there any questions that were still remaining?
Yes. So one, I just wanted to make sure was covered, and that was the very first question in regards to if vaccinations and cancer treatments, are there any interference between the two?
No, and I would say this: if you're currently in treatment for cancer, talk to your oncologist. But from what I can tell, they are still recommending that people get the vaccination. even though they may be in the midst of treatment. The timing is what they need to discuss with their specialist.
Okay. I have 2 or 3 questions myself. And so one of the things, it was very interesting and enlightening to share about probiotics versus prebiotics. And because I don't think that gets enough attention. Everyone, well, not everyone, but more information is shared about probiotics as opposed to prebiotics and how they can work together and the importance of them working together. So with that said, is there certain foods in the diet that could take away from a probiotic and prebiotics? For example, I was reading somewhere that actually coffee takes away from B12. So things like that.
I'm trying to think of anything in particular. I'm sure here's my answer to that. I think any food that is processed, that has a lot of, and we know what those are, packaged, processed, have a lot of chemicals in them, could really hamper your probiotic health. And here's the benefit of buying organic fruits and vegetables as well. So, if you don't buy organic, then we know that you're ingesting whatever pesticides have been sprayed on that plant or fruit. And that's definitely going to have an effect. Even the plastic, people who drink, and I don't do it as much as I used to, but if you drink out of plastic bottles and the BPA, I think that's in them, so any chemical certainly will do that. I can't think of any natural things that would hinder it. There probably are some, but I just can't think of them.
Okay.
Can I interject? Emulsifiers. There have been some studies showing that emulsifiers like soy lecithin can interfere with microbiome health. Also, animal protein can alter the ratio of beneficial to pathogenic bacteria. So that's something animal protein should be very clean. You should pay a lot of money for your meat.
I agree with that one. Yes, ma'am.
Got it. Thank you. Another question just came up. It was identified that garlic and onions are prebiotics. How do you approach cooking for someone who bloats when eating food cooked with them?
Well, I think we need to figure out why. Okay. So there is a condition called SIBO, small intestinal bowel overgrowth of bacteria, that there's testing that can be done for that. And then and food sensitivities, believe it or not, we can have an intolerance, not an allergy. We can have intolerances to good food. I always use Roz as an example. My sister, who did food sensitivity and sensitivity testing, she was sensitive to almonds. And she didn't mention that, but you notice that the yogurts that she eats are coconut milk. So she's gone from almond milk yogurts to coconut milk yogurt. So, when people say, as soon as I eat, I feel like I'm 9 months pregnant, to me, there's 2 approaches. If you know which foods are doing that, then eliminate and see if that helps. Or there's testing that can specifically tell you which foods. And then you have to follow a certain diet where foods of that type are eliminated. So that was kind of a long. Did that answer your question? That you have to have that's when you need the help of a good functional medicine person who can get to the root of it.
And that was it. And yes, that did answer the question. Okay, so those were the questions that we have. The wealth of information that you provided also was answered as questions came up, as Reverend Denise shared, they were answered. So we are really good. Thank you.
And so let me just say this to everyone. I need to unmute. Okay, let me just say how thoroughly overjoyed I am. I can't say that enough. Dr. Stanley, this has been just incredible information, and the involvement and engagement of everyone here together. And if I could just say, I'm grateful that you talked about the whole concern that we as African Americans deal with our inflammation. And I won't go into my long story, but I also had to start doing some research, what is it that was going on that would cause all this inflammation in my knees? And then through the whole, what do you call the PT, the physical therapy of, one side of your body is going to have more inflammation than the other. You don't even float right in the pool when you're doing water therapy. So I'm grateful that you really touched on how we can prevent all of that with the way that we eat.
Yes, ma'am.
So let me just say to everyone, thank you again, Dr. Stanley, and thank you everyone for being here. And I think, Dr. Creighton, you are already unmuted. If you don't mind, I'm going to just pin you to bring us to a nice, beautiful close with prayer.
Amen. And thank you, Reverend Burroughs, for having such an informative session, and for Dr. Rita Stanley for just sharing with us in such a meaningful and practical way. And the slides were excellent, because I'm a very visual learner, so that was very helpful for me. So I appreciate that people are taking their health very seriously, and we're all trying to improve. So let us go to the Lord in a word of prayer. Gracious God, we thank you for this time of coming together. God, we thank you for our pastor who encourages us to do all things well. And we thank you for Reverend Burroughs, who has taken on the health and wellness ministry at Turner Memorial AME Church. Now, God, we thank you for the things that were shared by Dr. Stanley, and we pray, God, that as we take our bodies as temples and as gifts that the Lord has provided to us, that you will, through your power of the Holy Spirit, rest, rule, and abide with us, that we might be mindful to what it is that our bodies tell us, and when it is that we need to alter our behaviors. Now, God, we ask that we will make a conscious decision on today, that we will make the changes that we need to make so that we can be better stewards of the temples that you have provided to us. Now, God, we ask that you would bless each and every person under the sound of my voice with peace, with joy, and with good health that only you can provide. And we ask all of these things in the matchless name of Jesus the Christ. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. And amen.
Amen. Everyone, again, thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Creighton. And everyone, thank you again for being here. We're now going to start signing off, but I'm going to stay on here for a few minutes. Those of us who were together as hosting this and putting this together. I cannot end this wonderful moment that we've had together without saying thank you again to our pastor, Reverend Kearney, and to the marketing team, and to the entire ministerial staff, everyone who always makes these things possible. And I have to always give a shout out to Sister Chantel. She makes these things possible with us logging on and getting the information and the flyers and just everything. So again, thank you. And Dr. Stanley, you're going to share those slides with us again, correct? And so what I'm going to do is, if you are, and thank you very much, Dr. Pat, if you are interested in receiving the slides, if you did not get an email directly from me, if you don't mind, or anyone, just go ahead and share your email in the chat. We'll stay here long enough. Sierra, my wonderful niece, who's a member of Ebenezer, Ebenezer Amy, is going to copy all of that, and we'll be able to get that information out to you and keep you informed on other events that we're having. And I just love you all. Oh, and we turn our clocks back later tonight or first thing early in the morning. Just want to remind you all of that. And are there any? Spring forward. I'm sorry, did I say back? Spring forward, fall back, spring forward. Oh my gosh, thank you. Whew. Yes, we're springing forward. So be safe, everyone, be well. And thank you again so much for supporting the health and wellness ministry here at Turner Memorial. I love you all. To the moon and back.
Thank you. Love you. This was great.
Thank you, Monica. I have to keep my glasses on so I can see. Love you all so much. Thank you, Dr. Creighton. Thank you, Sister Cassandra, all the members of the Turner Health and Wellness Ministry. Thank you so, so much. Hi, Emma. My cousin Emma was here today. I'm going to call you. Thank you.
Hey, Denise. Hi, it's Emma.
Hi,
Thank
sweetie. Everyone, this is my cousin Emma.
Hi, Emma.
you. Hi, nice to meet you. Oh, this was great. You know, I was a little late joining because I was at the supermarket. For some reason, I was trying to rush, but now I have so much more information to take back with me to the supermarket and what to look for. You know, I should have watched this first and then gone to the supermarket. Especially because I don't think Denise knows this, but I've had some gastrointestinal problems.
Mm.
And I think they've gotten worse as I've gotten older. You know, I didn't know, and I don't know if you can develop a lactose intolerance as you get older. I didn't have it before, but so now I just have some information, and I might, Denise, I might be interested in getting some of those slides.
Oh,
You know,
yes.
so that I can, you know, read up a little bit and really pay attention to that, because now that I'm retired, I can really focus on, you know, that when you're working, you pick up a lot of food because you're always doing something. You pick up something processed, you pick up, you know, something quick because you're working and you go. So now I can really pay attention and buy more fresh foods and that kind of thing. So this has just been wonderful. Thank all of you. And I will be in touch with you, Denise, to get those slides. It's been a wonderful program. Thank you so much.
So good to see you.
Yeah. Ronald told me I better put my hat on. He said, Emma, he said, that's my cousin. Don't have her see you Saturday morning. So I said, okay, I'll put my hat on. But please give my love to everyone.
Okay, I will. Same here. Okay, darling. Love you.
So much. Bye-bye.
Bye. So I think what we're going to do is I'm going to probably stop the recording. I think it was fun just to have even that conversation. Is that okay that I did that? I didn't stop the recording. I don't know where the recording, oh, there it is. Okay, so thank you, everyone. I'm going to stop recording here and stop recording to the